Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today it is my picks, predictions for Overwatch League 2020 Week 21. 13 matches happening again this weekend, just like there were last weekend, and there are some really good matches on the schedule for this weekend. So let's jump in, let's take a look, let's throw up my picks and talk about what is going on. First one, as we start on Saturday, we start in the Asia region. We have the Chengdu Hunters taking on the Guangzhou Charge. I think the Guangzhou Charge are the easy favorites in this one. I think they are the better team by a decent margin. Hunters, I think right now, are the weakest team in Asia. Charge are one of the strongest, arguably the strongest, but definitely arguably top three. And I think this is just a pretty easy matchup for them. Chengdu obviously has the ability to beat this team. Chengdu is a team who is not an easy beat in a lot of cases. They're a team who are very good. Certainly have what it takes to beat a Charge team when they're playing at their best. But I like the Charge overall. I think they're a very good team. And I think that they take this one pretty easily. Next, we have a rematch of the May Melee Finals. The Seoul Dynasty taking on the Shanghai Dragons. This one could be another classic match. Their past two matches have been very, very good. Seoul have been doing really weird stuff. The hero pool is open this week. I wouldn't be surprised if the Dynasty go all in because of what happened to them in the May Melee Finals, where they say, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to get reverse swept again. We're going all in to try to beat this Dragons team. It's certainly possible. I think this one could be very, very close. My reasoning for not making it the big pick game is predicting it to be that close is almost impossible. It could be that close, but I don't know what the Dynasty are going to play. I don't know what the Dynasty are going to look like. So for me, this isn't a big pick game because of that, but I think this could be a very good game. But I think the Dragons are just that much better than the Dynasty in pretty much every position, if not every position, to the point where I would be foolish to not say Shanghai. Take this one. They've looked exceptional, and they're a team like they're at the point right now where you kind of can't pick against them because they're just that good. Final Asian match for Saturday is the Hangzhou Spark against the London Spitfire. These are two teams who I've been talking very highly of for the entire season. The Spark, especially now that they have QOQ and Architect, I think are one of the best teams in the Asia region. I think they'd be one of the best teams in North America. I really like this Hangzhou Spark roster. I think they're exceptional. I think they take this win over a London Spitfire team that I personally do think is a solid team, a strong team, a good team. I think the Spark are better. I think the Spark are victorious over the Spitfire. I have too much faith in what we have seen from the Spark so far with this new retooled roster with Architect and QOQ. I'd say the matchup to really look out for here is the Bernard QOQ matchup. And I think that there's a very big matchup between Glister and Godsby, or I guess it could also, depending if they run the double hit scan, you would be looking at Babel versus Godsby. I think the DPS matchup and the Flex Tank matchup are the key matchups here. That, to me, is really what determines it. Gushui is better than JMac. I think that's definitive. London needs to win those DPS matchups and the Flex Tank matchup if they want to win this series. It's possible. Those, to me, are the big ones. Support is also somewhat of a big deal, but I think that they're not as important as winning those upfront matchups with your Flex Tank and with being able to shut down the other team's DPS. I think London's DPS are capable of doing that, but I think the Spark DPS are just too strong. I think the team, as we've seen them, is just too much of a strong piece right now together that I think they win this one. Moving on to the NA matches, we have the first match being the Florida Mayhem taking on the Houston Outlaws. This is a resurgent Outlaws team who have been looking better and better and better with every passing week. I still don't think they are quite high enough to beat the Mayhem, but I like what we've seen out of the Outlaws. I think Hydration is starting to fill in the main tank role very nicely. I think Mekko's had a very good season. I think Jexa's had a good season. I think their support line in general has been very solid. And I think Dante, of course, is having an incredible season. He's having one of the best seasons on DPS this season. But ultimately, I think the Mayhem are just stronger. I think they're stronger at almost every position, if not every position. I think Gargoyle's been a very good player. I think Fate's been very good this season. I'd say Jex is better than Chris, but I think Gangnam Jin's very good, and I think their DPS have been phenomenal as well. Coming off a tough loss to the LA Valiant from last week, I think they bounce back very well this weekend and have a big win over the Houston Outlaws. My big pick for Saturday is actually the Dallas Fuel taking on the Toronto Defiant, because this to me is a very interesting one. I struggle to pick this match, and I struggle to pick who I thought would win, because when you look at the match that they had last weekend, where the Fuel got completely stomped by the Vancouver Titans, you have to ask yourself, okay, if Decay isn't playing for this Fuel team, how good are they realistically? Looks like the answer is not that good. But the rest of the team looked so bad that you really have to say, even if Decay plays, how often is he really, truly going to be able to carry this team to victories? Because it seems like he does carry the team to victories, where if he's not playing, it's not even close. I think he will play this weekend, because I think Dallas kind of recognizes that they need to get some wins if they want to have any chance of making it late in the season. You know, they're 4-8, bottom 3 in the Pacific. They're in the bottom 5 overall in the standings. It's a very big game for them. The Defiant are just ahead of them. This would be their opportunity to move up in the standings potentially, take down a Defiant team who, while not incredible and who have been struggling, have had relatively close matchups. I think the Fuel are the better team. I like the Defiant as well. I think the Defiant have been very good in their DPS lineup. I think Zik has been better than what I actually originally thought he was. And of course, I think Sureforce's been good when he's played, and Logic's been very good when he's in. And I think the more you can play Sureforce Logic's, the better. I think Cruz has been a huge addition to this team. Numlocked, we haven't gotten a ton of time out of him. There was a dominant victory over the Titans and a relatively big defeat to the Atlanta Reign. This is the Defiant's biggest test right now. Oh, how can they match up against a team who are very similar to them, who are in a very similar position as they are? This, to me, is the big match for the Defiant. This could change the course of their season, potentially. It could change the direction this team goes. If they can manage to get a win over the Dallas Fuel, it's big. I think the Dallas Fuel edge them out 3-2, most likely. I think it's a close series, but I think the Fuel ultimately walk away with the win. The next series, one that I was also tempted to make a big pick series, is the Vancouver Titans against the Boston Uprising. Two teams who are on an upward trajectory. The Titans had their win last weekend against the Dallas Fuel. Looked pretty good. I think this Titans roster is certainly not the worst roster in the league right now. You have to look at the Uprising potentially. You have to look at the Justice potentially. And maybe even potentially look at a team like the Dallas Fuel, who, you know, if they don't have Decay playing, how good are they really? But this Titans Uprising series is interesting. To me, it's a pretty close 50-50 as well, much of the Fuel Defiant one. To me, Uprising, I think they have a little more chemistry because they've played together for longer. They have a benefit of being all together in one place. They don't have the kind of synergy you build from someone just from, you know, communicating online all the time. These are people who are, you know, they eat together, they spend a lot of time together. I think that there's a bit more positive results we've seen out of the Uprising, right? The Uprising's win over the Gladiators is better than the Titans' win over the Fuel. I think that the Gladiators have proven themselves as a better team. I think the Uprising have had much better results recently, even if they've been losses. They looked okay against Fusion, a really good Fusion team. And they've looked solid against the Paris Eternal. The Titans took a beating to the Toronto Defiant and then bounced back the next week and completely destroyed the Dallas Fuel. It's difficult to gauge exactly where the Titans are. I feel like I have a better read on the Uprising. I think they're a team who are on the rise. You could even say they're a team that is uprising. I'm never going to say that again. They're a team that I think you could argue is on the rise. I think this is a game that they should win. I think they are the better team right now, but don't count the Titans out. I think they are definitely capable of winning this one. I think they have what it takes to win. Right now, I'd pick the Uprising. Gladiators Justice, this is an easy one. Gladiators, they're the better team. Better tank line, better support line, better DPS line, which is saying a lot. I think the Gladiators win this one pretty convincingly. Justice need to make a lot of changes in the offseason. I don't think they care that much about the 2020 season anymore. I think for them it's all about the future, and I think that the Gladiators at least have a chance at doing some stuff this season. I don't think they're good enough to go any further than, say, quarterfinals if they were to make the season playoffs, but I think they are a team who certainly should beat the Justice pretty easily. Moving on to Sunday, we have the first Asia game, which I think is going to be an incredible match. Shanghai Dragons versus Hangzhou Spark. I could see this one going either way. I talked to both of these teams before, so I don't have to talk as much. Dragons are the better team overall, but I think the Spark have what it takes to win. I would actually pick the Spark in the main tank matchup. I think Fearless is very good. I just think Gushui is transcendent. I think he is a top 2 main tank in the league. Arguably the best main tank in the league, hands down. I think he's very good. I think this one's somewhat close. I think that there are some spots where the Dragons certainly edge them out. I think they're better on the support side. The DPS side, I think, is where the matchup really is going to be determined. I love Godsby Architect as a duo. I was so impressed with them last weekend. I thought they were the best DPS duo we saw last weekend in Asia, even though Fled and Lip were very good as well. And I thought Happy Eileen were good too. I really like what we've seen out of Godsby Architect, and I expect them to only get better. But I picked the Dragons because I think the Dragons are ultimately the better team. And I think in a game of 50-50s, the Shanghai's going to edge you out in 50-50s more often than not. Seoul Dynasty against the Chengdu Hunters. I think the Seoul Dynasty are better than what their record tells you they are. I think the Seoul Dynasty are better than what a lot of the results tell you they are. Chengdu Hunters, I think, are the weakest team in the Asia region. I don't think they're the weakest team in the league by any means, but I think they're the weakest team in Asia. I think the Dynasty take this one, even though the Dynasty have looked kind of bad and they've struggled. It's definitely a trap game for them. It's right after they play Shanghai. Last time they played Shanghai in a regular season match, they beat them and then lost to Chengdu the following match. It's not impossible for it to happen again. Chengdu has that capability, but I think Seoul should be able to win this one. But I think it's a 3-1, most likely, potentially 3-2. I don't think Chengdu's bad by any means. I just think Seoul has the advantage if they play to their strengths. And that is what they should do, and I think that is what they will do. Final Asian match for the week is the NYXL against the Guangzhou Charge. I'm finally ready to say that the Guangzhou Charge are a complete and legit team. I think what the NYXL are really trying to do is they're trying to play styles that are not comfortable for them because they know they're not that good at them. And I think that their entire plan is to say, hey, we need to be able to be good at playing the same defensive and slow composition we've played in the past, but we need to get more aggressive. I think they're going to keep getting better. I think with the addition of Haksal, and I think with changes potentially coming into the main support position with Mondu potentially playing full-time, Hapa and Bianca potentially switching, who knows, Nene coming back. It's a team that I think has just gotten better and better and better as the season has progressed with some of these new additions. The Charge look better right now. Charge had the win over the Spark last weekend. New York fell to the Spark. I thought New York made a lot of mistakes when they played against the Spark. I thought New York ran some weird compositions, things they shouldn't have done. I thought they did the same thing last time they played the Charge. I think this is a New York team that is capable 100% of winning this match. Right now I'm picking the Charge because I think they are they're more coordinated. I think that they have looked better as a team, whereas New York has looked somewhat iffy, especially running these offensive, aggressive, fast compositions that they seem to want to be running right now. So ultimately, I think it goes in the direction of the Charge. But this one, I think, should be a pretty close one. Moving on to the North America matches, we have the LA Valiant against the Paris Eternal. This one, I think, should be very good. The Valiant are looking very good. They're on the rise. The Eternal also look good. But they've had a little bit more of a dip in recent performances, where I think the Valiant are looking better now than they ever have. I think this one's pretty one-sided. I think the Eternal are running weird compositions because they want Sparkle to play because Sparkle's that good. And I think they're kind of forcing Sparkle when they maybe shouldn't do so. So it's an interesting team to look at. And the Valiant are better right now. I think KSP and Shax are so good right now. You can't really slow them down right now. I think that the Valiant take this one 3-1, 3-2. I think it'll be closer than what we saw from the Valiant Mayhem series, just because I think that the Valiant were able to capitalize on some Mayhem mistakes more. Where I think the Mayhem's biggest problem this season has been they make some mistakes when they're playing against teams who are close to them in skill. And I think that's really where they've had their most issues. I think they have some nerves against teams who are kind of equally competitive. I don't think the Eternal really care about stuff like that, but I think the Valiant take this one. Just because I think right now they're playing better. Next, we have the Atlanta Reign against the Vancouver Titans. This is a match that has no bearing on Vancouver's overall finish in the Summer Showdown rankings. If they win, it doesn't help them. If they lose, it doesn't help them. Helps them with their overall season, but I feel like it should be different. I think it should be the kind of thing where it's really based on their best 3 results, but I can understand why you don't do that, because if you lose and you're getting a win, it is a little unfair. But it makes it where the Reign match counts, and the Reign can get a win for this, but the Titans don't get anything negative. So like if the Titans win, cool, the Reign struggle and they get a negative result, but the Titans are going to be positive. I don't think it really matters. I think the Reign are going to win anyway. I think the Reign are the better team. I think the Reign have shown that, yes, they struggle at times, but they are not a bad team by any means. They're still very good. They're still very strong. They're very stacked in a lot of positions. When they play weaker teams, they dominate them. I don't expect that to be any different. Titans are on the rise. Reign are trying to correct their course, but against a team like the Titans, it shouldn't be a problem. Final match of the week is going to be a banger. I feel it. I feel very confident about it. It is the Philadelphia Fusion against the San Francisco Shock. I will still say it. I think these are still the best 2 teams in North America. I know there's debates about whether or not Florida is officially better than the Philadelphia Fusion. I do not think that that is the case. I still think that the Fusion are the better team. And I think this is the Fusion's big test. Other than their loss to Florida in the May Melee, the Philadelphia Fusion have 1 loss this season, and it was to the Paris Eternal back in week 5, back in March. The Fusion are very good. I think you look at this matchup in terms of 1-to-1 comparisons between the Fusion and the Shock. I think the Fusion have the better players in a number of positions. Main tank, hit scan DPS, main support is very close. Flex support also very close. And I think flex tank is very close. So where I think this matchup is won is really in the main tank battle, in the hit scan DPS battle. And I think the Fusion are better in those positions. But where I think the Fusion's biggest problem is, I think they are not as coordinated as a team like San Francisco. They're not as coordinated as a team like Shanghai. And I think where the Shock are really strong is that they aren't the strongest in terms of positional players, though they have very good players at every position. Where the Shock benefit the most is they're a team who have very good coordination. They work well together. They know how to play around each other. And I think you really look at their support line in particular as something that is really nasty. I think the Shock take this one. I think it's very close. I think this one should be like a 3-2 series. I think the Fusion are just... They are still trying to work out how to be at their peak, how to be the best team, a coordinated team. The Shock have much more time under their belts of building coordination from last season and from the previous season. The Fusion are still a lot of new players and new pieces trying to figure things out. I think by the end of the season, we're going to be looking at the Fusion potentially as the best team in the league. I don't want to write the Fusion off at all. This one is definitely winnable for them. Bren on the Plat Chat podcast this past week said that he thinks the fact that nobody picked the Fusion is evidence that they're a bad team. I don't think that's true. Or not that they're a bad team, that they're not as a top team. And I don't think that's true. I still think they're the best team in this region behind the Shock. And I think that if you look at this team, you really see where they are really, really good is in that tank line, in that DPS line. They excel, and their support line is really good as well. They don't have a weak spot on this roster. If they clean up their coordination, I think there's a team who is almost unstoppable. I think the Shock are very good as well. I think this is a matchup that, as the season progresses, I would start to favor the Fusion. Right now, I think the Shock have it because they have the coordination and the teamwork that I believe the Fusion currently are lacking. That is it for my picks. If you enjoyed my picks, if you have your own thoughts on my picks, places I was wrong, places I was right, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear it. And if you enjoyed, consider liking and subscribing for more content like this in the future. But I am going to get out of here, so thank you so much for watching. Hope you are all staying safe and healthy, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.